thank Patrick for all his work in the background, making all this possible. So I'll do a roll call for the meeting, and if you could just, say here. So John
Here.
and Janet
Here.
and Donnell. I think he's there.
I see Donnell.
Yeah.
You're muted. You're muted.
Here. Sorry.
That's all right. Yeah. And Mike
Here.
and Ashley.
I'm here. Can people mute themselves when they're not talking? There's just a lot of background noise. I think John's not muted right now. I can't see who else isn't.
I refuse to be muted.
And Jen
Here.
and Carrie.
Clowns.
I'm here.
Yeah, and Andrew.
Here.
So we have a quorum, so thank you all for attending. And before we start, I just want to give you an update on, as you know, that we did lose Meg. So at this point, there's no replacement for her. So as you know, what happened is Donnell moved over. He now represents the EDC, and there's an open slot for the business representative, although he is also representing the business. So it will be up to the planning board to appoint someone new, and nothing has happened yet. So I don't know at this point if it will happen, because it may be a little late getting someone involved and getting up to speed. So, but that's where things stand right now. And then I want to thank everybody who filled out the forms from the inventory and all the groups that met. That was very much appreciated. So again, thank you all for that. So let's start with reviewing the April Community Forum. And again, I want to thank everybody for their work there. And again, Patrick was big, and certainly we thank Judy and her team, Daphne and all the others who were involved in that. Does anyone have any, or Patrick, want to start with you, or Judy, what you're thinking?
Yeah, I was going to say, Phil, why don't we just hand that over to Judy?
Yeah, Judy, do you want to?
So, I appreciated everybody who attended that meeting and actually went around to all the different stations and provided some comments, because I think we got some helpful ones. But I think as we're also going to get into a little bit with the discussion here, some of the things that people identified as actions the town could take actually have already been done, at least as our understanding. But that happens on every master plan project. That there are things that happen in a community and people just don't know. So we'll talk about that in a bit. I want to really thank Daphne for jumping in, because as I think you all know, I was recovering from COVID at that point, and it was not a pretty time. So I do appreciate your help, Daphne, and really to all the committee members who agreed to staff a discussion station. It was very helpful. It would have been nice to have more turnout, but it wasn't bad. I think generally, I think anything the committee can do to boost outreach will be much appreciated. I know Patrick's been pretty much killing himself trying to get the word out about different things happening with the plan, but there's something special and effective about community volunteers who reside in the community also sort of taking the lead on outreach. So I would just say that's probably going to continue to be a need from the committee, and also a kind of a challenge, especially kind of moving into the summer months. But we certainly learned a lot, and we sent Pat, and we're not going to be making any decisions about this tonight, but just so people know, we do have a pretty good transcript of what came out of the discussion centers at the meeting on April 27th. And although the meeting online was not well attended pretty much at all, I would have to say for the most part, what we heard was very consistent with what with a lot of what was said on April 27th. And the goal of that was to try to find out what the community thinks might be good things for Walpole to do over the next 10 years to perhaps address some of the goals of the plan. And I think a lot of good ideas came out of it. Obviously, we're not expecting the community to do all that work. It's ultimately our responsibility as professional planners to make a bunch of recommendations. But I think we wanted to get a sense of the community's expectations and sense about what things would be good for the town to consider. And so there'll be more opportunities for people to comment. But anyway, we're planning to use that content to try to develop, which we started to develop, a survey to circulate in the community. We had talked about this previously, so hopefully everybody remembers that we were going to try to do a second survey, kind of taking the high points that came out of the second community meeting process and kind of throw them out to the residents at large and say, you know, what do you think? Basically, these are ideas that your colleagues, your residents in your town suggested. Do you agree with them? And then provide everybody space to say, well, actually, I have other ideas. So we're not foreclosing anybody's opportunity to speak up. We want to take kind of the high points from those meetings and create what amounts to a multiple choice survey. So we have data to work with. As you may recall, when we had to kind of quickly put a survey out after the first meeting, it was a real challenge because we weren't planning to do one at that point. And so it all ended up being an open-ended question system, which became a nightmare for us. Daphne can tell you, I think it was really a nightmare to go through all those thousands of responses. So we can't do that again. But I do think we can kind of put ideas out there that came from your residents and frankly also from the committee, which is one of the things we want to talk about tonight, about potential actions that would support the goals and let people tell us, yeah, I think this is a good idea, or I don't agree with that. So the draft survey that Patrick sent out is something that we really want to talk to you about tonight. And again, I want to just underscore the question items that are in that survey, the draft, those are not locked in. They're things that we saw as kind of threads in the responses that seem to us worthy to ask people about. But we also don't want to foreclose the opportunity of the committee to weigh in and say, well, gee, these are things that we think are important that maybe didn't come up at the meeting and we want a chance to weigh in on it. Anyway, so that's kind of where we are with this. We'd like to get this survey on the street by next Friday. And the reason for the lag is to give you folks all an opportunity to review the draft and provide comments to us so that we can put the survey into final form, get it online, and get a link out to the community that can be posted in a variety of locations and hold that survey open till the end of June. What that does, of course, meanwhile, is it gives us a continued opportunity to be trying to update and finish the inventory report, which we've not been able to do because we still don't have the final comment matrices on 2 of the chapters. So, you know, everybody has the comments that we've received so far, but it's one document. So we need to kind of finish getting those comments on those last 2 sections, and then we can finish the inventory report, which really we'd like to get done and on, you know, put behind us. So we're planning to be working on that while this survey is out on the street. And I think there's some other engagement opportunities coming up that Patrick's going to want to bring up that would be helpful perhaps for the committee to, you know, to help promote. But do you want me to screen share this draft survey at this point? What would be most helpful to you?
One thing first, I just want to recognize that Dean has joined the meeting. So thank you, Dean.
Hi, Dean.
Yellow.
Good. Yeah. So we have a positive response. Thank you. Yeah. So are you looking for us to go through this tonight, Judy, and
I
give you
just
input right here?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to at least walk you through what we
Yeah,
did
yeah,
and why.
yeah, I think
I'm not
that-
asking you to have a big, long discussion about it tonight, but
Yeah.
just at least you're not trying to read it cold.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that would be good.
All right.
Before you do that, I just want to make sure, did anybody else have any comments about the the evening? You know, who was there? Andrew?
Oh, I just had a question about what 2 sections are we waiting on to finish with the inventory and assessments?
So it's
So we've
traffic and
got-
circulation and climate change.
Yeah, and I think climate change is in process.
Yep.
Yeah. Carrie?
Yeah, just comment about the community forum. I was chatting with some of the other committee members who were there that evening, and I think the turnout was lower than we had hoped. And we were thinking that having a clearer hook, so to speak, for why community members should show up could be really useful. I know that up until a couple of days before the forum, I wasn't entirely sure what we were going to be discussing, and I didn't really know what the format was. So it was hard for me to promote it in a way that was going to tell people, hey, you really need to be here because this is the stage we're at. These are the decisions we're making. So that's just a piece of constructive feedback for our future community outreach. We really need to make clear, I think, to people what is going to be discussed and what areas we're really looking for specific feedback on.
Sure. No, I think that's fair criticism. Thank you.
Anyone else? I guess I should ask who HP 500-267C is.
That's me.
Oh, okay, John.
It's a backup on audio. I don't get a good signal all the time from you guys, so
Okay,
I don't
thank
want to
you.
miss anything.
Understood.
Just understand, we only count you once, though. Yeah, I think that is a good comment, Carrie. So
Yep.
that's a lesson going forward as we do things.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I think that's fine. Any other thoughts, folks? Everybody's quiet tonight.
The attendance was disappointing, put it that way.
And do we think that people are not doing Zoom as much, or is that just related to the time of day, or it's just really hard for people to participate in these type of forums through Zoom?
Well, one thing is we usually ask steering committee members to make enough phone calls to get 5 people to agree to come to the meeting. And I wondered if any of you were able to do that, because when you give it, a personal invitation, and if each of you were to get 5 people, that would have been more than we had. But
Yeah.
then to Carrie's point, you have to be able to explain well why they should, convince them why to come. Jen.
And I just want, sorry, hold on. I'm gonna get.
So the flyer wasn't helpful? We just want to know, because it's really helpful to us to know when maybe something wasn't clear enough.
And I just wanted to say that sorry, my sister calls me every night to make sure I'm still alive. So that was my nightly call. I just think that this problem with when you say, and I brought this up at our first meeting, the 5 of us, like there's a lot of overlap with the 5 people or the people we bring. And then it ends up that it's like, we represent a lot of the people on town boards, and it's like, so it's us and like our, 100 best friends are at pretty much everything. So I think we are running into the problem where we aren't touching all of the parts of the community. So even if we brought 5 friends, like I posted it in groups I belong to and groups that I manage and I run, my 5 is in the Venn diagram. It's not going to overlap with everybody on the group, but it's going to overlap with a lot of people.
Yeah,
that's fair.
That's always the challenge with having a committee that's top heavy with people from existing boards and commissions. Is that to some extent, I'm not criticizing you guys, I'm just saying that's one of the things that happens when you have a committee that's comprised of people who are on other town boards or commissions, that you're dealing with a subset of town government. So it's kind of a challenge, but I understand that, Jen. Yeah.
Just one comment. I've already spoken to Patrick about it. A lot of the town meeting members did not receive notification. Not that they should, I mean, it was posted, but they did not receive notification that the second forum was going to be held. And one suggestion that was made to me is that the big apartment buildings that are in town, we should have some way to post in those apartments that there is a community forum coming up. I don't think anyone was well aware of the online component, although I think a lot of people were not interested in online again. So that might be something. One of the kids on one of our committees lives downtown, and she said there would be a way to notify, just as a post, that there would be an open forum, or there is a survey that they might want to be taking.
So anything you can do, folks, I'm just saying this to all of you, to help Patrick know who the contact person would be at those apartment developments would be helpful, because Pat's the one who's going to circulate that link. And so I think anything you guys can do to help us identify
So I have the link for 95 West.
You do?
Liberty Station, I have the leasing agent's link. I don't actually have the whoever does any posts around there. And I did send everything out to RTM. So I think I spoke to Janet about that. I don't know if they just didn't get caught up in junk mail or what the deal was there, but
I remember you sent them. I
yeah.
mean,
And to Jen's point, if any of you have any ideas about how to reach people who have not been reached, you know, what are some channels? Share them, please. Oh, Jen has an idea.
So I did that thing that I hate, and I used to yell at my junior associates for, was I complained I didn't offer a solution. But I just wanted to say that the farmers market starts up June 11th, and we'll have a table there every week. It's for the Board of Health. We talk about recycling, but I'm happy to, you know, if we create a QR code for the link, and that gets a diverse section of Walpole, let's put it that way, comes through every week, you know.
that's on the list. Yeah.
Walpole Day as well. Walpole Day is coming up. Also, do we have a connection at the Preserve? That seems to be one of the larger housing developments in Walpole.
I don't know.
I don't directly. I could try to talk to the building department though.
That might be another source.
Sorry, I wonder if we could put together some sort of flyer that businesses would be willing to put up in their windows. When we did the Eat Walpole campaign, some of the restaurants put up the flyer so that folks could go and see, you know, who was open and when and whatnot. Because Pat's doing a great job keeping the webpage up to date, so it could be, you know, master plan, find out what's going on. So
that same flyer that was created for the second meeting probably could be that size and that level of content probably could just as easily be used as a poster in a business window.
And just to go back to your previous question, Judy, about was the flyer sufficient? I think the flyer looked great and it covered very broadly, you know, what we were going to be discussing. But if I was somebody who had attended the first meeting, I don't think it was clear to me why I should now come to the second one. If I've already given my input, it wasn't clear that the discussion was moving forward.
Okay.
That we had taken the feedback, we had developed these goals, and now we're looking for more feedback on concrete action steps to meet the goals. And that's a lot to put on a flyer, but I don't know, some way to show people the progression and to say that we're building on the feedback we've already received. And now we're asking, you know, for you to help us keep moving forward.
That's fair. That's fair. We had to, I mean, no excuse intended, but there was a bit of a shift here in our plans for that meeting because I got really sick. So, you know, thank God Daphne was able to jump in. So I appreciate the feedback. I mean, I guess we do need to sort of think a little bit more about the content of those flyers. Too much general doesn't necessarily tell anybody.
And maybe just to really focus in on what Carrie just said, that, you know, each one builds on the previous and incorporates the input, and make sure that your thoughts have been incorporated and we keep moving forward. We're not just rehashing.
Yeah. Okay. So we need to think about that with the flyer for the survey. You know, what are we asking people to do? And again, we'd like to get it out on the street by the end of next week. And the reason for that date is to give you guys a chance to think about it and get back to us if you think there's anything problematic with it or something that you heard that you think really ought to be included. What we're trying to do, or not do rather, and I'm sure you can understand this, some of the lists of ideas on the discussion board were fairly extensive, and we can't put all those in a survey. It just can't be done. You would tire out the survey respondent and they just wouldn't finish. So we're trying to pull kind of key ideas, and naturally we think we've kind of caught a bunch of them, but we want to give you guys a chance to sort of say, well, gee, I looked at the notes too, or I was there and I also heard, you know, X, Y, or Z that's not here. And ultimately we're going to have to make a judgment call about, because we just multiple choice survey needs to just have us, you know, not a big long list of ideas for every one of those discussions.
And we try to identify the ones that are most frequently mentioned, right? So that, because then that gives us a sense that a lot of people support that, but there's an option for someone to enter something other. Before the flyer for the survey, the whole purpose of the survey is to help identify strategies to help achieve the goals. Right. So we need to kind of make that very clear. Ashley has a point to make.
Oh, I took a look at it and I liked how it was organized and I thought it hit kind of the main things we've been hearing. I was wondering about how we're using the word could, because sure the town could do all, like, is it asking what's legally allowed or what things you could do or what should the town do? So I was just
Well,
curious about
there's
that
two
word.
different questions. I mean, your question's a good one, and there's two different ways to think about this. One is sort of assessing what does the public kind of think their own community can do, given what the public understands about the capacity, the resources, the other pressures on the town. So that's a could. A should is, this are things I feel passionately about. This is what I think this town should do. And I think we would like to get some feedback from you on whether you want to see this more of a could or a should. You know, you're just going to get perhaps different kinds of results. We wrote it as could because that was most closely related to the question that was asked at the community meeting.
If I may, how is this survey, Judy, going to go out? Is it going to be something? Is there something that's going to be able that somebody's going to be able to fill out on their mobile device?
Yeah, they could. So we
readily like that.
Yeah, we would. I mean, we use a survey platform called Qualtrics, and you know, people can do it on their phone. They can do it on their computer. There will be a link. So what we're trying to do, we would have a flyer ready, literally. Get it in the store windows. You know, it will be available for the farmers market. It'll be on a poster in different places, kind of around the community, so people can simply, you know, join that QR code, Donnell, and do the survey.
And in terms of should or could, I think everything should be should do. It's not our decision down the road on what they're gonna do. It's we're giving them what they should be doing. And what they pick and choose at that point in time is up to somebody else.
So you're advocating for could or should?
No, should. I think the town should do everything we give them. But obviously they're gonna have to pick and pull on what they think is responsible to do.
Well, yeah, there's another opinion to that, Donnell, which is that really a lot of this stuff the town shouldn't be doing. It should encourage people, citizens and taxpayers to do these things. You know, unless you want to turn all your rights over to the government to micromanage every part of your life. Much of these things are a little bit beyond the bucket, so to speak, of what's traditionally considered the role of government. And
I think that's what
invasion in the
we're
private
polling
sector.
people to understand what they think. Right, we're polling them to see what they think town should. Is that what you're saying, Donnell?
Well, no, I'm saying that I think everything, you know, as I read through the survey and all the check boxes, we're not giving them anything they shouldn't be doing. We're giving them everything they should be doing. And I see where John's coming from that, but I mean, we're also in the same aspect, John, of telling that the town, one of the things they should do is make zoning more friendly so that the ordinary citizen can go out and do something on their own and not have to rely on government. But we're also, the government's going to take the lead on it and get it available so people can take steps to do it on their own.
Well, but you flogged the issue on many of these questions. For example, they want to prioritize natural resources. Well, we prioritize natural resources on government-owned property, not on private property, not on Hillcrest Farm, not on my property. Prioritize things you want to do on government property that you have control of. The government is in control of everything. The government's got 2,500 acres of land in Walpole to play with. And I don't foresee them designing everyone's life, social engineering, everything, because a committee thinks it would be nice. So I think you have to be careful on the wording here. People get grandiose ideas. Someone owns a vacant lot. They think that's open space and they can do something with it as government. Actually, it's private property owner who has zoning and property rights. And anything you do impugn that is economic injury and is illegal.
Yeah, John, I didn't read that.
Make some good points, but could you point specifically to the which is causing you concern? Is it under which goal is it?
Do you want me to screen share this so we can all be looking at it together?
Yeah, Judy.
Yeah. Go right ahead.
John, which goal is that?
Why don't we just go through the 10, point them out. There's things I object to. Well, you know, in open space, for example, the second one down there is, well, first one, prioritize existing natural resources. I would qualify that on government-owned property. The second one, improve connection between open spaces, and I would say, and accesses to encourage the use of areas such as Adams Farm. And I think preventing cutting down trees as much as possible. I mean, that would depend on a landowner. Someone might not want trees. We have this, not to get on a sidebar, but the planning board has this thing about if it's a new home being built, they want 4 street trees planted 50 feet apart, so many feet from the street in front of this lot. And you know, many people that want to build a new home, they want to put landscape features, raised shrub beds, all kinds of things. They don't want 4 street trees in their property. You know, and where does the government get off trying to tell people what kind of trees they're going to have and where they're going to have them, or if they take one down, they have to plant one. What if they want to clear for a pool? Why should they have to build another forest on their property to have a pool in their backyard? I mean,
Be clear, when you say the government, you're referring to town meeting? Is that?
I'm referring to so-called the whatever you want to call it, the permitting division of the town of Walpole, which would include conservation, board of health.
Right, and their rules and regulations in the zoning bylaw are all adopted by town meeting, correct?
I don't think we can hear John.
The zoning bylaws, yeah. Planning board subdivision rules and regulations, they can regulate.
Okay, and but they're elected officials, right? We're throwing out the government, but what we're talking about is local people, and we have a town meeting form of government, which I'm from the West Coast, and so town meeting's a really novel thing. When I look at it, it is probably the most representative form of democracy that this country has. So I just want to be clear about who we're talking about when we're saying the government.
That's right. And actually, you know, as you said, that it's town meeting votes for the town, the zoning bylaws and the boards, what power they have. You know, governments often do things for the good of the community, so it's not a question of taking away someone's rights. It's a compromise. But I don't think anyone's saying here that the government's going to force people on their own land to keep it open land. I mean, that has to go through all of the permitting, all of the zoning bylaws, rules, and a lot of these things actually really only apply to town buildings. It's not applying to every building. So I mean, you have to interpret this appropriately to what the context is. But none of this is different than what we do today. And we do have a special permitting process that residents can go through when they want exceptions to things. So,
well, it's beyond that. It's beyond the notion is that town government is kind of at the bottom of the food chain in governments, and town government sometimes begin to think it's omnipotent, and it should be taking on all the responsibilities of the other levels of government. We don't need to have an army. We don't need to build hospitals. Healthcare has been nationalized. There are many services that the county provides, prisons, for example. There's many things that the little old Walpole doesn't have to get involved in because those are responsibilities of other levels, of higher levels of government, if you will.
I don't think any of this is suggesting any of that.
How much more the local town government really needs to do, and does it really need to step into all these other domains of overreach and regulation? It's a generic overlay of just attitude and belief system about government and its role and the private property rights, public freedoms and rights. And, you know, many people disagree on that, but
Maybe we should go through the goals. Judy has shared this.
Yeah, let's do that.
Well, so these are, we haven't changed these. These are the same goals that we've been talking about for a couple of months.
Yeah, so we're not looking at changing those.
No, I know.
Right. That's it.
No, but this was like the question at each discussion station. It's
Yeah.
like, here's a goal and what could the town do to meet this goal? And people had a variety of things to say. And Fiona kind of went through all the input and tried to pull out things that sort of seemed to either relate or overlap or somehow consolidate to come up with this draft. So these are examples of actions. Hold on a sec, Bill.
Yeah.
These are examples of actions that people listed at the discussion center on economic development.
yeah.
And just to point out that what that means is that these are actions that people who participated feel is the government's role.
Yeah, and I would think these are representative of the types of things that people said, even though you're not going to list all of them.
Yeah.
Is my assumption. Are you going to share the whole list with?
Yeah, I'm going to go through. It's just that we asked to go through the goals, so I'm just.
Well, I meant. Well, are you going to share all the comments that from the?
Oh, I sent them to Pat. Yes, and Pat's got them. And I'm happy to send them to all of you because I think you want to see them.
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Definitely, we don't want to hide anything from you. What we tried to do was go through them and find things that that tended to show up, you know, in different ways a couple of times from people, and then also things that. Just from what we've seen, and mind you, there's a certain amount of opinion coming from us as professionals, what we think probably makes sense in a town of your size with your capacity and your resources. And so that's where this list came from.
Yeah.
And more than happy to kind of add or substitute, but these were things that jumped out for us.
The one I would point out one on that number one, that the encourage investment and development of life sciences and innovation. That's something that I think, Donnell, you were on economic development at that time. We actually had a forum in town to try to invite companies like Siemens or companies who were in the life sciences to come to Walpole. We were considering the property that's now the 55 West Street or whatever. The property is now considered for a condo project down in South Walpole. We were considering that property being rezoned for life sciences, as well as trying to get some of them into the business park on Route 1A. And there was a strong community reaction against that. They came up with all kinds of things about problems with medical testing and medical waste, and it was surprising. We thought that was like a terrific kind of a clean, professional type of business sector to encourage. And it turned out the people in that neighborhood didn't like the idea at all.
Maybe they needed some more public education.
Well, actually, but
Re-education, yeah, we could send a re-education camp, I guess, and get them thinking the way we like. But I mean, it is interesting.
with all the conversation I had with the people coming up on the economic development, I didn't even hear anyone say encourage investment on life sciences and innovation. I was kind of surprised where that came from.
Yeah, me too.
Well, you're going to see all the notes. So, you know, if you think there's something that we misunderstood, you're going to get to tell us.
Okay.
The others look good.
So then on, I'm sorry, Andrew, you go ahead.
I just had a quick comment on one of the answers for goal 4. The last box that you could check, if you scroll down to goal 4, it says so the question is, what do you think the town could do to meet this land use goal? And then the last box says identify parallels for business development, commercial, industrial, and preservation. And I just I don't know if we're missing a word. I just didn't know parallels for what. Like, is maybe we could rewrite that one.
I think
Andrew, that's my fault. Parcels. I'm sorry. That was my fault.
All good. All good. Now it makes total sense.
Now it makes sense.
Why don't we, can we
That
just
was
go?
an easy fix, right, Fiona?
I just have a
Yeah,
question back
thankfully.
on
That's right.
go one.
And then-
One of the things before you go
hold
through
on.
the questions, Judy, one of the things.
John, we lost you?
John, you need to use your backup screen.
We need to get better cable up in North Walpole.
Yeah.
Who like the small town environment of Walpole. They like the fact that Walpole's never grown more than 1% a year for the last 30 or 40 years, however many years. They really aren't looking to have all kinds of new businesses and companies come into the town. They're not looking to have a big splurge of growth of population coming into town or making it more, more of a business center, so to speak. So there's some, maybe not universal agreement on the idea that we want to do more of everything and have more, more businesses, more restaurants, more jobs, more commerce downtown, et cetera, et cetera. That may be the view of a few people, but probably the older the people are that you interview, the less you're going to hear that sentiment. For just as an overarching idea to keep in mind, the young families seem to have a real interest in building new schools and having a lot of recreation facilities and having a lot of sports complexes and this type of thing. But, that's one segment.
John, I think it's hard to generalize like that, and I don't.
Of course it is.
Yeah, and I have to say, I'm not old, but I do support schools and business. And like I said, I'm not old, but I'm obviously joking. But because I think these are a range of ideas that people will have an opportunity to pick which ones they want and which ones they don't want.
And suggest another if they
Yes,
think of
that's
something
something
that they want to say that's not on our list.
And it's really exploring, it's taking the temperature. What do most people support? What do they think the role of government is? What do they think the role of this plan is? And what would they like the town to do to achieve these goals that people have agreed they have?
Yeah, I mean, maybe in that first one, a lot of people mentioned the rising taxes and their objection to the increase of the cost of living in Walpole.
I think maybe just if you're looking at economic development, I mean, maybe it's better to put in something a little bit counter to those other points. So we did hear very early on in our first meeting that
the 9% real estate tax increase.
They wanted the small town feel. So maybe it's we need to put something in here that says, keep the small town feel and don't encourage
all these
to come in. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to jump in there because I think what Mike is saying is definitely a sentiment that people feel, but I think it's our job to communicate to them that is not an option. That to just keep things the way they are. We've tried that for a few decades and we got these 40B developments. So just doing nothing and assuming that the small town feel will continue, well, that backfired. And I think it's an important bit of community education that we tell people, if you do nothing, if you just hope for the best, that new 40Bs won't come, you're gonna end up upset.
Right, and on that vein, there's a lot of criticism that the existing zoning bylaws don't allow for the types of business-friendly development that people do want to see. And if we do nothing, those things won't change either.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew, I think that's absolutely correct. And would point the blame where the blame should be on the snob zoning that's been pursued by certain segments of the town government for 30 years. And the snob zoning has brought them the 40Bs.
Right, so
and we shouldn't think
things like inclusionary zoning bylaws that people tried to get passed that did not, right?
And I just want to mention that having a small town look does not preclude development. It's just a matter of how you manage development and put it in the right places. And the reality is that Walpole today is nothing like it was in the 50s. So people in the 50s, if they said, well, we don't want it ever to change, many of us wouldn't be living here. So so there's a reality of the need for more housing and more services in our community, and our, I think the goal should be to grow to the town so that it can provide for more housing, but still can keep the so-called small community look that people want. And I don't think the two are contradictory.
I think we might be getting a little too into the weeds about debating, one viewpoint or another. I think the whole idea of having a master plan is actually for the town to make decisions and take actions. So we want to ask people, what decisions do they want the town to make and what actions do they want the town to take? And so, take the example that Mike brought up about preserving the small town feel. Well, is there an action the town could take? Can we identify a clear action or maintaining a current policy or what it is that would do that for people? I just think, like, if you're engaging in the master plan process, it's because you want the town to either keep doing what it's doing in certain areas or do something different. And it has to be very action oriented. And so people are going to look at this and they're going to say, yes, I want that. No, I don't.
Right.
I don't want the town to be doing all that stuff, so I'm not going to check off any of those boxes. Or I want the town to do all of this and I'm going to check off all of them. But it's not for us to say, people will respond according to what they think is needed and what fits with their views. But I don't think we need to be steering them in one direction or another.
Right.
Yeah, but no action is also an alternative.
Point shouldn't be, Carrie. But also I wanted to remind everyone that there was a very strong response to the survey, the first survey. There was a lot of people who responded, and the goals were developed based on that input and the input at the first public meeting. So
right.
These are what most people said they wanted. Now we're asking them, okay, this is what you want. How do you think the town should do it? How do you think the town should accomplish these goals that you've said you wanted? So it's really not for us here to decide one way or the other. It's for us here to decide what is the best way of asking the residents to make those choices.
Right.
So maybe we should go back to just really going through each of the line items.
So I would support that.
Continue.
Yeah, that's what I'd like.
Yeah, I'd like to make a statement though, what contradictory to what Phil said. Phil, we had the input from our planning experts that Walpole should, in business development, the best strategy was to promote a restaurant row. We went to the legislature and got approval so we can incentivize additional restaurants with liquor licenses to locate in downtown Walpole. And it turned out the market didn't really want that. It really didn't go over. It didn't happen. And there's a natural evolution of things. You don't have to plan everything. The market, there's the invisible hand of the economy and the market that does these things in a natural way that makes it successful. When you try to tinker with policies and ideas and force it with incentives and in regulations, you often cause misfires or cause a problem. So
John, right now, we're not really talking about policies.
What Gary was said is we don't have to have action on everything. No action would be some good choices in a few of these goals.
But people,
if someone feels that way, John, they can say so where it says other.
Right.
Why do we say no action is needed here? Keep the town in a small community flavor.
But I think we should keep on going. And when you talk about small community, people may have a wide range of what people think a small community is. So getting down to the specific things allows people to really say what they think it is, because probably none of us might agree even what a so-called small community is. People want low taxes or lower taxes. Well, bringing in more business is one way to do that. So again, you're going to get conflicting requirements, and people can pick the ones that meet what they think is best.
Well, you can have government live within its means and stop spending more money too. That's another way.
Yeah, so we're going to be on though, I think, what we're trying to do here. So we should go through the list.
Can I just say, maybe at the end, can we add us like a, thank you for your time. If you have thoughts or, more thoughts than what was covered by this survey, please join us at our, pick the July meeting or the August meeting. Let's have a public forum. Let's encourage people. So if they have, if they don't like the choices and they want to let it know, let us know, so we don't want to have it so that it's so broad-ended that you have the same problem that you have 1,000 responses to question 1 that are in the other box. That defeats the purpose. But if people are that passionate, which is, you know, then they could come to our meeting, we could have a public forum, they could talk, you know, and become involved with the committee and have that dialogue then.
I think that's a great idea.
Very good idea.
Yep.
So I was just going to suggest on encourage, on the third one, encourage investment in development of life sciences and innovation. Should we make that maybe more open? I don't know, however you want to word it.
I'm not going to edit them now, Phil.
No, but that's just a suggestion.
Yeah, we'll just take the committee's comments, you know, under advisement and work on it
Yep.
next week. I just want to go through this right now, if we could possibly do that, please.
Yep.
So, you know, again, on open space, the goal, you know, preserve and connect open spaces and maintain and update existing and new recreational facilities, ensuring equitable access for all residents. So these were examples of things that came up in the, you know, from residents who commented on the open space station. I'm not going to read these verbatim. You can see them all. Maybe just take a minute to look at them. And I would say for purposes of this meeting, if there's something in here that is confusing to you or surprising, maybe tell us what your questions are rather than us debating the actual items, because you're going to have time to do that between now and next week.
So we
Or
just
if
send
you
we
were
just
at
send them
this
to you.
station, if you were at this station and you thought you heard something frequently mentioned and it, you know, maybe didn't even get documented, you know, speak up now and we can include it.
Or we can send you the comments, what you're saying.
Yeah,
Jim.
we're going to actually give them a chance, Daphne, to get back to us because they're just getting all the notes now.
That's right.
So that's why I figured we'll give them everything. And we want to get the survey on the street by next Friday.
By next Friday.
So you know, the deadline for getting stuff back from the committee would probably be, you know, Monday, close of business. And that will give us enough time to get the survey designed and loaded in Qualtrics so we can get a poster out with the link and everything else by the end of the week.
Okay.
And then natural resources, as you can see, this was the goal we had previously discussed. These were ideas that came up around water resources and, you know, advocacy and partnerships and so forth. On land use, the goal has to do with ensuring kind of consistency in scale, use, and characteristics of different parts of town, including downtown. These were things that were mentioned around housing, around reducing barriers, regulatory barriers, et cetera. And I think some of these, again, could be rephrased a bit more as actual action items.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard sometimes when people come to a meeting like this, they're still sort of thinking up here, and we're trying to get it more here so that we actually have an action plan. So don't be afraid to comment on something perhaps being too generic, or if you have a way to suggest something that might be more of a specific action, we really would love to have your thoughts on this. The climate change goal is here, and these are the ideas that kind of we heard about: public transportation, energy efficiency in public buildings, you know, fully electric vehicles, and so forth. On housing, these were
hold on. What if they disagree with the whole thesis of these actions? I mean, there's a community of people that recognize that an electric vehicle to manufacture, get the scarce resources, and to make these batteries that can't be disposed of with the lithium in them, is actually more carbon impactful on the environment than the gasoline automobile.
So then they wouldn't.
Not everybody believes in this.
So they wouldn't choose that, John. That's what they would do.
Well, you might give them an option there. Do you disagree with the town getting involved in these national transportation policy issues?
So I think the data will reflect that, right? If somebody skips question 5 and we say 1,000 people do the survey and most other ones have between 800 and 1,000 responses, and this has 600, it'll jump out and say, oh, people didn't think that this was important. They didn't check it. So you have to, it'll come out in the data analysis, right? So like the no action is literally no action in the survey.
Literally no
Don't
action.
click anything.
And I do want to remind everyone too that in the survey and in the previous meeting, there was a lot of support for the town getting involved in helping to reduce.
I think my earlier comment might have been misunderstood, and I wasn't suggesting no action. I just was hoping that each of these goals had maybe a different view, because my fear is that you're going to get a lot of others, and we're going to be back to where we started. So you're going to have a whole list of people telling you, my choice wasn't on here, this is what I think, and then we have to include them somehow.
So when you get back to us with your comments on this, it will be helpful to kind of hear some of that. And again, you know, I'd encourage two things here. One is, if you think there's a better way to express an idea that you think does belong in here, so that it's more of an action and less of an aspiration, we'd love to hear your thoughts. And the second is, you know, perhaps things that you think are really just fundamentally missing here. I'd like to respond to John's comment about, or question rather. You know, there could be a simple question at the end of each one of these items. I don't agree with any of this. And just let somebody say it. And that way we won't be guessing later whether people didn't respond because they didn't like something, or they didn't respond because they didn't understand it. Just give them the option to say, I don't like any of this, and let them move on.
So,
Yeah.
but what is this though? I don't like the goal or
these
what
ideas.
are these actions.
I don't like any of these ideas. I'd keep it really simple, Daphne, because what we don't
that's
want
what
to
I'm
do.
saying, but I think we need to be specific, right? Because then we
Sure.
won't know, is it the goal? Is it, what is it?
Yeah, I think that what I don't want to do is overcomplicate the survey design.
Exactly.
And so the more we are asking people to comment on each specific item, the more complicated it gets and people shut down.
So it may be, instead of, it could be none of the above and then other.
That's fine. We could do that. None of the above or other. That's fine. Okay, moving along, folks. Transportation and circulation, this is the goal, and these are
Housing, we
the...
skipped housing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I started it, and then yes, we just got sidetracked. So housing, yes. These are things that we kind of picked out of the responses. Promote housing strategies that provide a variety of types and not just single family homes. Examine zoning to be more inclusionary. I mean, I think we could probably reword that to say that have affordable zoning for affordable housing. I don't think we should, Fiona, I didn't even say this to you, so don't take this the wrong way. I actually have this thing about the term inclusionary zoning because a lot of people don't know what it means.
They don't know what it is.
I think you could just say zoning for affordable housing, and that at least is something a little more meaningful to people. I know you've had a big debate in Walpole about this. I don't want to go there tonight. I actually don't want to go there at all. I'm just saying I think there's a way to ask this question that is that's easier for people to answer.
Okay.
And then, yeah, it's fine, Fiona. I didn't think of it till now, so no worries.
You should spell out ADUs as well.
Yes, you're
Yes,
right.
you're right. You're right.
Okay.
Yep.
That's a good point.
So that question, I just, good point out by John, but that was one of the examples I talked to Judy about earlier. We already have zoning for ADUs. We could.
So Patrick, is it though, I seem to remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it allows for it, but there are some conditions that constrain it. And that people.
Yes, certain, so you, but you
It's
would probably
limited to
change the question.
Yeah, it's limited to family members, and it's a very narrow.
that's
guide.
You could,
That's not ADUs.
Say that again?
If you're restricting it to family members, that's not AD. That's really not an ADU.
Right.
That's what the idea is.
Yeah, it's very limited to very close.
And also, I think it can't be a separate structure. I don't remember now well,
Yeah.
but there was some
There's
constraints
a
that made it.
size constraint. There's a number
Yeah.
of constraints.
Well, maybe there needs to be some way of
could
saying.
you amend the zoning for ADUs?
Let's
Yeah.
think about how to word this, not in this meeting, but I think Daphne has a point. We need to make sure that that what we're asking people is an action they actually can recognize. So it could be make it easier to allow, accessory dwellings, without family limitations or something like that. I don't want to try to wordsmith this tonight. I'm just saying, I think Patrick has a point. There's ADU zoning, but I think our point is it doesn't really address the needs of what an accessory dwelling unit is intended to do. It's basically a unit for a family member.
Right. And someone had their hand up, but I lost them now.
Yeah, me too. I was trying to see who it was.
It was Andrew.
Oh.
It was just me to make the point that Phil did. All good.
Okay. Transportation and circulation. These are things we heard. You may have heard some better or other things. Again, you'll have an opportunity to tell us. But about heavy vehicle traffic downtown, expanding sidewalk access, you know, and parking requirements related to commuter rail, multimodal transportation, other options to reduce the need for a car. We probably could make that a little bit more, you know, specific, but anyway, those were kind of the ideas that we heard. On public facilities and services, I just saw a typo. That's my fault. Repurposing existing buildings for uses for other uses rather than, you know,
Demolishing.
tearing them down or whatever. Updating water, sewer, and stormwater infrastructure. Hold on, John. Dedicating time to a maintenance schedule for existing facilities. You know, renovating the high school where needed. I mean, so these are just things that people said. So now, John, I know you have your hand up. Others may have something to say too. I thought you had your hand up. Maybe
I did have my hand up. Yeah, no, on two, the word fortify, I don't really agree with that term.
Okay.
I think
Enhance.
I would say plan,
What?
updating plan for water, sewer, and stormwater.
if you had some purpose, I'd like to know what it is, because I don't understand what the word fortify implies there.
So ignore fortify, just say update. For the
Update.
sake of this discussion.
Yeah.
On historic and cultural, I want to keep going here, folks. Draw attention to, you know, existing groups or facilities, creating a cultural space downtown, investing in historic sites that are open to the public, evaluating options for Old Town Hall, and bringing more public art to downtown. And then on community health, which was, you know, I listed these in the survey in the order that we kind of gave them to you in the goals document, just to make it easier for people. So investing in resources and services to protect public health, ideas that we think kind of came out of the meeting were engaging a broader, you know, spectrum of the community and identifying community health needs, evaluating how to attract a downtown walk-in clinic, investing in walkability, connectivity, and so forth, supporting the local food pantry, and providing information on how to access mental and physical health services. So John, I see you trying to get our attention. Can't hear you.
John, you're on mute. John, you're on mute. Although it doesn't look like he's on mute.
Yeah, you just can't hear him.
Did that, I didn't answer that.
I thought you were trying to get our attention and we couldn't hear you.
I just asked about that downtown walk-in clinic and minute clinic. Is that a private sector thing?
How to attract a private sector clinic, right?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, it would be a private center. I mean, private sector, typically that's a private health practice.
Mhm.
Yeah, folks who responded
Well,
specifically called
the
out.
investing is the part. I don't want to spend more town money on community health. You know, there are plenty of health resources out there already with the federal government being involved in everything. So, I mean, long as we're not adding more money to it, that's great.
No, it's about how to partner with the private sector, right? So the private sector provides the service that then contributes to the community's health.
Right.
Yeah, and again, people have different opinions, and they have the option to pick things or not pick them. So you think one way, John, and other people may think the other way. So we want to give them that option to make that choice.
Donnell, I think you have your hand up.
Yes, I do. Is there a way of prioritizing the number of comments that we receive back? Like the number one comment that we have here should be the comment that we heard mostly at it, and then downgraded as it goes down? Because if we
No, I would say that would be a really good idea if we'd had a huge turnout. But since we didn't have a huge turnout, I think we just have to, call what we can from what we heard, and then provide that other.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that if we get this comment back, and most of the comments came back on one thing, and we only got 1 or 2 comments on another thing, then I think the comment that we got 5 or 6 or 8 on versus the one we got 1 on should be prioritized and put up on the top. In that, even in the beginning of this survey, it should say that these are prioritized according to how we receive comments already.
But actually, the only reason they're listed as goals 1 through 10 is that that's the way they.
You mean it's the multiple choice, Judy?
No, not the goals.
Yeah. You're saying that they should put a number in instead of.
No, he's saying that if, let's say, for economic development, updating the zoning was cited more frequently, that should be listed at the top. But I'm saying since the turnout was not that large, it doesn't really make that much sense to do that.
I don't think
Wouldn't that also possibly bias the results if we tell people these are already prioritized?
There's a bigger problem. We didn't really have a prioritization exercise at this meeting.
That's right.
So, to some extent, what Fiona has tried to do here is take a look at the notes and say, well, something came up a couple of times. So that was something that mattered to the people who attended that meeting, but we didn't really do a prioritization exercise that night. So I don't think we can do that.
Also, I think Carrie's point is well taken, that if we tell them these have been prioritized, it might influence someone to say, oh, this is what most people thought. I don't really know what I think. I'll just go with that.
Yeah.
But what's wrong with that if that's what most people think?
No, I don't know. I really wouldn't do that.
That's what we'll get at the end. We'll get that sense, right, of what most people think. We're still
trying to go out to a much bigger, complement of the universe of the community than what was in that room that night.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Donnell on that. I think you guys have to recognize pretty much the majority of this committee, you come from this housing lobby, and you probably see this is way more important to you in your own minds. But I agree with Donnell. I think the zoning was more mentioned and more of an interest broadly of people of correcting that, than coming up with town-specific strategies that again have to come out there. Well, how is the town going to, if they're not going to invest any money, how are they going to implement these strategies?
Because I know in my booth at economic development, everybody talked about downtown, and then there's 5 or 6 other things here that we really didn't talk much about, but downtown was all talked about, getting downtown going again, which I see downtown as the number 1, which is where I think it should be, as opposed to, branding. I don't know, I really heard many people say about branding, but I know they did say about attracting new business. There's a little bit of upzoning. But I also heard a lot of people talking about getting downtown business property owners to upgrade their property and to do something and to have something to help that. And that's kind of it's not really, it's implementing pro-business policies to encourage investment in downtown. But the existing people there, I don't know.
You're saying that's missing, Donnell. You're saying that's missing, that we should add that.
Yes, because that's a lot of the feedback from the people that I was talking to, but I'll give that comment when I go through it.
I just think that we've talked a lot about not artificially limiting the universe of responses that we get. I think if we go through and prioritize things based on what we think is the most likely to be answer. We're leading the witness, so to speak, to just confirm what people have already told us, which if, you know, to your point, Donnell, if downtown is that strongly ahead of all of these other things, I think that will come through, whether it's the first option or the third option on the list.
Right.
Yes, Carrie, but as long as we have the other there, they're always going to be able to give the comment.
Well, sure, but that we're doing that, so we're closing the opportunity for people to mention something that may be very important.
And they may be missing,
right,
as far as they're concerned.
But it also might be important for the people to know what other people are thinking before they give their.
Well, I think they're going to know that by virtue of the introduction to the survey, which is, you know, these are ideas that were heard at the second community meeting, and we want to consult with the larger community about, you know, about how people see these ideas. So I think they're going to know that.
And then we're going to have a summary of the responses to the survey where it will be really clear what most people thought. And hopefully most people will include more than 14 who came to a meeting.
Will at that point in time things get prioritized? Is there a time when things get prioritized?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're going to use the results of this to try to begin to develop what is going to be ultimately become the implementation program, but it becomes recommendations. So we might come back, just to be clear, folks, we may come back with a recommendation that's not specifically in this survey, but because it aligns well with something that a lot of people said. I mean, that's our job as consultants, is to come back and make recommendations to you. And
Judy, what I'm asking is, at that point in time, will they be prioritized?
Well, I'll tell you, okay, I think I know what your question is, I hope. We were intending for this to be a multiple choice survey. It could be a rank survey.
I'm sorry. I wasn't talking about this survey. I was talking about our whole process.
Yeah.
Our process.
That's going to be done with you guys. That's really what key part of the committee's role.
Okay. So item number 1, and when we get to economic development, it'll be downtown, redeveloping or helping downtown.
If you, that's what the committee decides is the most important thing. That's what the plan's probably going to say.
But it has to be informed by what the public has said, right? We have to take that into account, as well as interpreting the existing conditions and what the need assessment says. And that's what the committee has to work together to do, is to take all of the inputs and then say, these are the community priorities that should be incorporated and included in that implementation plan.
So at the end of our master plan that we submit to the town at the end of all this, there will be prioritized things.
Sure, and sometimes there are things that are, you know, very important, but can't be done first.
Yep.
Exactly.
I mean, that's just the way it is.
Just to clarify from Donna, you're talking about like the action items, so to speak, that section.
Yes, but the recommendations.
Yes.
The number one recommendation for economic development is going to be, we need to do something downtown, not to go up on Route 1. Even though Route 1 might be mentioned in it, but when we've got more responses about downtown, that downtown should be on a recommendation we give to the town at the end of this whole process. It should be that way, I think.
That's fine.
Yep.
All I'm saying, Donnell, is that sometimes an action that may be terribly important to the community can't be done first.
Correct.
Because there's other things that have to happen in order for that recommendation to actually come to fruition. So it's a prioritization and also a staggering of actions.
Yep.
Yeah, and it has to be based on timelines, so that there will be some short-term and longer term, and it has to show how things will be funded.
Absolutely.
Or you know, so it isn't just a whole number of action items willy-nilly. It's got to be things that are practical, and there's a way for the town to achieve them.
Feasible and within the town's capacity to do it.
Yep. I get all that.
But you're right to call out the need for prioritization, because otherwise it's just a wish list.
Yes, and then it might get lost on it.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. But I get it. I'm just wanting to say that at the end that you do have some type of recommendation at different
Sure.
levels. Yep.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, and when you get all the results from the survey, you will be able to then rank them by how many responses you got for each of them.
Exactly.
Right. So you'll be doing that for the survey.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, if an item gets 800 people all saying it's an important item, that's probably really important to the community as a whole. I mean, I think there's going to be a natural sorting here based on the responses.
Okay.
And that's the purpose, right? To sort of to gauge and take the temperature to see where people think the town should be giving time and other resource.
Right. So Pat has sent out this to you folks. And Pat, did you also send the notes from April 27th?
I did not yet. No, I
Oh,
just sent out this.
We'll
so I'll pull
provide
that.
that. We'll provide that. Because we didn't have actual discussion stations on May 1st. The notes that we have from that are just organized very differently. I can just tell you that there wasn't anything that really came out of that May 1st meeting that wasn't discussed on April 27th. So they were both helpful. They were just not really any different in terms of what we heard. So we'll give you those notes as well. They're just raw notes, folks. Just accept that's what it is. But I would also encourage you guys as committee members to say, well, wait a minute, we didn't really get a chance to put our ideas down either on April 27th, and we think there's something that's missing here. You should tell us. Yes, Donnell, I see your hand up.
How many people responded on May 1st?
Oh, we only had like 3 or 4.
3 or 4? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Well, Judy and Daphne, thank you for putting all this together. And actually, I think it's very representative of the things I heard. And even if you didn't capture everything people said, it does give a range of the type of ideas. So I think that's something we could extrapolate from.
And
Yeah.
Fiona.
Yeah, Fiona was really trying to pull this together for us. I think the one note of caution I want to offer is that when you're trying to design a survey like this, you really have to be careful about how many items you're asking people to respond to. So, we just tried to design this as a fairly simple, standard 5 choices and an other. And I think it's fine to add, none of the above, if that's what you would like to do.
Judy, does this Qualtrics estimate the amount of time the survey takes to complete? Because I know SurveyMonkey does.
I think
that's always really good to tell people ahead of time. And I noticed, Fiona, you put that in, as a placeholder.
Yeah,
Because I think it's important people know, oh, it's only 10 minutes, I can do that.
So I'll ask Catherine tomorrow because she's kind of our Qualtrics.
Yeah, I know.
Here. Well, when we get this finally designed and we can beta test it, even if Qualtrics doesn't give us an estimate, we can make one.
Right, exactly.
Could I ask Judy, are you going to add a box, none of the above? So it'll go none of the above and then the last box will be other?
Yes.
Yes, Judy just said
Okay.
so.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. So Patrick, not to kind of bump this back to you, but I know we wanted to talk a little bit about upcoming events and what we think we should do.
So I know we talked about the survey said hopefully to get it completed and information printed out by next week. I know I think Walpole Day is the 11th of June, so that is kind of a quick turnaround there. I spoke to the rec department about whether we want to set up a table or even if I had just a poster board with that information as a way to kind of get people's attention, have a QR code just to get people walking by. I kind of want to throw that back to everybody there. In addition to that, I know I spoke to Phil about this. I know Juneteenth is the next week. That's another option for a community event.
Yep.
And then, of course, the farmers market. And I don't know if we have a deadline, Judy, in terms of how long we want to keep it out there for, in terms of maybe like weeks or so, or.
So what we would like to do is get the survey out there with an active link. So you have a poster to print on Friday the 10th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that means we need to get the committee's feedback really by the close of business on Monday so we can finalize this survey, get it loaded in Qualtrics, yada, yada. I would say the survey should be live probably like through the 28th. And then we can extend it to the 30th if you want.
And we had talked about doing the following, having a handout, a 2-sided handout. On the one side, explaining to people the purpose of a master plan, the vision and goals, and then there'll be a link to, for more information here, to take a survey. Here's the link, here's the QR code, so that they can take that with them, and also give them a little bit of context, because you don't want people who have never heard about this to just dive in, right? Frame what this is all about, why we're doing it, and how the information will be used. So make it, an attractive two-sided handout.
Yep.
And I don't know if you want to, but you could also do kind of like a half page where for each goal, people can just say, oh, I'm really interested in housing, I'm really interested in economic development, and just take off the physical half page and leave it behind. The only problem with that is that then it's a lot of compiling.
Yeah, I don't think we can do that, Daphne. I just don't.
Yeah.
But I do think we could do a back-to-back handout that would be available at these different venues. We certainly can do a big poster with the QR code for the survey. It's just, you're going to want to make sure if the survey closes on June 30th, we got to pull those posters. So nobody, I guess we better put on the poster, the survey will close on June.
Put the close date.
Yeah.
So I could be at Walpole Day. I'll bring a canopy, and if Patrick does the poster, and if anybody else wants to join me, it's just good to talk to people too about the master plan. That might be an opportunity to get the word out. It's not clear about Juneteenth Day. I was going to follow up on that. And then third, I think the farmers market would be good, and also we could put the poster out at the library. There's a space there. A lot of people walk through the library, and we could even have some kind of attachment to it where people could to have the leaflets. So if we put together the handout, whatever that looks like, we can have that for Walpole Day and for the other events.
Okay.
So if anybody wants to join me for Walpole Day, please let me know.
I just have a question. Are we able to use the school's emails to get this out to parents?
I don't know.
Yes, I mean, the principals send out their weekly newsletters, and they usually have all manner of flyers about goings on around town. So if we have a flyer and we can get the image to Dr. Goff, she can circulate it to the building principals.
Okay.
That's great.
And the recreation department email list is another good one.
So we have an outreach plan, and we need to go back, take a look, and use those channels that were previously identified to distribute the survey, and also see how the survey was distributed. Pat, you probably have that information, how it was distributed last time, because last time there was a very good response rate.
Yeah, I mean, we went through the rec department email list, the council on aging email list. I know our town website, I believe our news section, you can subscribe to that. So every time anything is posted new, usually it goes out to people that are subscribed to the town news section. And just, going through, so it goes to the town news section. I believe it also gets posted on the town Twitter as well. And so most of the times I've gone through rec and council on aging just because they have the larger email listings.
Mm-hmm. And two different demographics, presumably, with a little bit of
Yep. But the school one, I mean, that's something I can definitely talk to. So you said that's Dr. Goff, or is it Mary Morreale?
Send it to both of them. I think
Okay.
Dr. Goff just likes to know what we're asking to have sent out.
Yeah, sure.
That works. Okay, so we'll work on the sort of two-sided handout. We'll work on the poster to get it to you, Pat, by Friday the 10th, so you can print it. Do you have foam core at Town Hall that you can mount it on if it's 24 by 36?
I can find some.
But can you find some? Let us know if you don't have it, because we can get some to you.
Yeah. All
My
right.
concern is just, I don't know that we can get it printed and mounted and all of that done by the 10th. So
I'll look. So 24 by 36, I should have that. If you want to do any bigger, though, I'd probably have to reuse whatever
We won't.
have.
we won't.
right.
We'll just do 24 by 36. We won't make that.
A good
Okay.
enough size. That's a
That's
good.
a we'll take care of that. But just to reiterate, for us to be able to take your comments, which we want, we're going to need them by the close of business on Monday,
This coming Monday.
this coming Monday. Yeah, in order for us to then have it on the street by the end of the week.
Right.
So that would be the 6th of June.
No, I was just emphasizing that was this.
Got it.
Monday.
Thank you. Any questions or anything from folks? Anything else we have forgotten? Phil, you're the.
Yeah, so we have one more order of business. But first I want to thank, thank Judy and Daphne and
Fiona.
yeah, for what for putting everything together. Thank you for moving us forward. And so we need to get the 2 sections you're missing from
Yes, we need them because it's holding up the final inventory and assessment report.
Yeah, so one was climate, and what was the other one?
Transportation.
Transportation. Okay, I'll work with Patrick to make sure. I know the climate one is pretty well done. So we can follow up on the transportation one.
Yeah, I mean, I think we really kind of have to set a drop dead on this because we need to be able to move on. And it's a little bit hard to sort of go to the next section of the plan without these sections done. So where you've all had them for a while, I guess I'd say it's June.
I think we can turn that around very quickly because I'm pretty sure the climate one is almost 100% done.
Okay.
The transportation one, I'm not as sure. But,
okay. Well, I mean,
yeah.
I think again, if we can have those by the end of next week, that would be fine. And other than that, I think we just have to go with what we've got.
Yeah, I don't see that as a problem, Patrick. We should be good, right? Yeah.
Okay.
So with that, just going to the last item on our agenda. We need to approve minutes for March 9th and April 26th. I hope people had a chance to read them. So what if we can make a motion to approve the minutes of, I guess we should do it separately because some people may not want to vote on both of them, depending if you're at the meeting. So March 9th first. Does anybody have any comments first or any changes? Janet?
Should it be Ms. Polito the whole way through? Politis?
I should say that again. I couldn't hear.
Okay, it's just a typo. Instead of Ms., it's Mr. It should be Ms. For Politis. Okay, that's in both sets of minutes. Same out. Right? Do you see what I mean? The second on March 9th, the first one is Ms. Politis. After that, it's Mr. See?
Okay, so we can change that.
Yeah, that's just.
Yeah. So we have a motion then to accept the minutes from March 9th with that change.
I'll make a motion.
In a second.
Second.
Thank you, Janet. And I believe we need to do a roll call vote on votes. So if somebody corrects me that I'm wrong on that. Dean?
Aye.
Ashley?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
Janet?
You're on mute.
I think that's an aye. Yep. John?
Aye.
Jen?
Abstain.
Mike?
Aye.
Donnell?
Abstain, I wasn't present.
And myself, aye. So that should be 802. I did that right. So that passes. And then for the minutes of April 26th, so we'll make the same change that Janet suggested for that. Does anyone have any other changes or comments? So if someone will make a motion to accept the minutes of April 26th as written with additional change.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes for Tuesday, April 26, 2022.
Thank you, Donnell. And a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay. Janet or Mike? So all in favor or I should say, we'll do the vote. So Dean,
Aye.
Ashley,
Dean.
Carrie,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Jonna,
Abstain.
Jennifer,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Danelle,
Aye.
and myself, aye. So I think that was 9-0 or 908, I guess. I'm sorry, it was 802 again. I did that right. So with that, does anyone have any other comments or questions they want to make before we adjourn? That would make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
And a second.
Second.
And thank you, Ashley. And I guess Dean,
Aye.
Ashley,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Jen,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Danelle,
Aye.
myself, aye. So thank you all. And again, thanks to Judy and team, and thanks to Patrick for all he's doing. And again, if somebody did want to help out at Walpole Day, please let me know. And with that, we'll look forward to our next meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you.
See you all.